This is it, the moment of truth. Vladimir Klitschko versus Kubrat Pulev. I say the moment of truth because it's Kubrat Pulev is a fighter that I've watched since he's turned pro, and I've always been a fan of Kubrat Pulev. And as somebody who, if you want to call him a boxing analyst, some people like to put names to things, or I'm just a guy, I'm just a fan that loves boxing. And some people say, well, I don't know shit about boxing. But, I get some predictions right, I get some predictions wrong. If I was Nostradamus, I'd be on a hell of a lot of money at the bookies. I'm not, so therefore I am flawed in my ways at times. But I always try and give a good breakdown as to why I think somebody will win a fight. Generally, I don't just say this person's going to win because I just like them, or I don't think that person's going to win because I think they're shit. I'll give you a breakdown, and I don't think a lot of people appreciate that at times, and people can be quite blinded in their thinking, saying, you know what, I think this guy's going to win. Why do you think he's going to win? Just because I don't like the other guy, or just because I think he'll win because some people can go as far as to go they'll like another person because of the color of their skin, as opposed to it being the case of the technical boxing skills. So, all that being said, this fight is not just Kubrat Pulev versus Vladimir Klitschko. This fight is also K2 Promotions versus Sauerland. Sauerland, obviously, the management team of Kubrat Pulev, and K2 Promotions by the Klitschkos. Now, let's be honest, the Klitschkos have dominated the heavyweight division and continue to dominate the heavyweight division. But this fight tonight could change the scope of the heavyweight division. Could change the scope. I think it's very easy to back a guy when you know he's going to win a fight. You watch a guy knock this guy, knock that guy, he's knocking out bums, knocks all these guys out, and you sit and say, yeah, he's going to win the fight tonight. He's going to win this fight tonight. Easy to make a prediction on that. A lot more difficult to make a prediction about a fight when the guy that's going in the ring is the underdog, not expected to win. When Kovalev went and fought Cleverly, I told everybody, this guy Kovalev is going to knock Cleverly out inside 5. He did that. I saw how Cleverly got hurt by a guy called Kuzmanovic, I believe. And Kuzmanovic wasn't known as a big puncher. And I said, if Cleverly's getting hit by that sort of those punches and getting wobbled, then if Kovalev catches this guy, he knocks him out clean. You saw that. Okay? Sometimes my prediction had been wide of the mark. Okay? I also predicted that Kovalev would beat Hopkins. And if Kovalev had already done the distance, 12 rounds, I believe he would have stopped Hopkins sooner. He held back a bit because he wasn't sure about the distance, and so that changes a fight strategy. So you save yourself for the later rounds. But you saw when actually when Kovalev put his foot down and said, "Right, I'm going for you." In the last 30 seconds of the fight, you saw he put Bernard Hopkins in a bad way, and poor Bernard. But anyway, this fight's about Kubrat Pulev and Vladimir Klitschko, so let's get into it. You've heard my thoughts about this fight beforehand, but I'm going to go a little bit more into it. And we're going to go back in history a bit. If you remember rightly, Vladimir Klitschko cancelled the first fight against Kubrat Pulev. And in my interview with assistant trainer James Ali Bashir, Bashir said that he was cautious about this fight. He was worried about this fight. In previous interviews I've done with James Ali Bashir, he's been very vocal. We'll knock this guy out, we'll knock that guy out, we'll get rid of this guy. The one thing Bashir always tells me is that of Klitschko's right hand. The big punch of the right hand. Yeah, if an opponent gets into Klitschko's range, he'll land the right hand and he'll knock him over, and it stops them from coming forward. And you have to say, in the fights that Klitschko's been in, that right hand has been a deterrent. But I'm not sure if that right hand is as big, and I might be setting myself off a big fall here, as big as everyone's putting it out to be, because, he hit Povetkin with a hell of a lot of shots. And yes, Povetkin went down, but for me, he's fought other fighters as well. He's not a Lennox Lewis where he hits you with a right hand, bam, and you go over. He's a more accumulative effect of punches, or he's more like like Vitaly Klitschko. When he hit you, you knew he was a big puncher. You visibly see he's shaking up on, like, one of them when he hit Adamant with a punch in the first round. You could see how his Adamat's body literally shake violently at the right hand where it landed. That being said, Klitschko's got very good boxing ability if you allow him to get into a rhythm, which is popping the jab, using the right hand. You'll never see Klitschko throw a left jab, a right hand, then a left hook. You won't see that with Klitschko because that leaves you open to throwing punches. All the punches are pretty straight punches with Klitschko. So you won't see a lot of big combinations of him. If he's hurt, he's got you on the ropes and he's going for you, that's a little different. But he won't put himself out there. And so with Klitschko, he's got good footwork, and for a big man, he moves well against guys that come forward in straight lines, don't move their head, and are slow on their feet. That's great. But now he's got an opponent tonight in Kubrat Pulev, who is just as big. Okay, Klitschko is, I think, an inch and a half taller and is a pound lighter coming into this fight. So they're both big men. Klitschko has the more renowned left jab, or more, and has done a lot more damage with that left jab because he's fought more opponents. He's got more experience. Now, I think Pulev's jab is just is a good jab. It's a good enough jab. Klitschko's good at throwing a left jab, but how good is he at defending a left jab? It's all right putting a left jab out there, and we're going to find tonight how good he deals with a jab being thrown back at him by someone who's physically as strong or potentially stronger than him. If you look at the Ustinov fight when Pulev fought Ustinov, for those people who say that Pulev can't fight against big guys, against Ustinov, against Dimitrenko, two big heavyweights, against Tony Thompson, those are three heavyweights that Pulev's been in the ring with. And I'm going to put the Tony Thompson fight in particular here, because Tony Thompson was a southpaw, and in his amateur career, Pulev did struggle with southpaws. Now, as a pro, the first 3 rounds of that fight against Thompson, Pulev was struggling. But after those 3 rounds, and Pulev worked out what he was going to do, he went on to drop Tony Thompson, who, let's remember, Tony Thompson was the guy that came across and beat David Price twice. And David Price was meant to be the next coming after Klitschko and all the rest of it, before Tony Thompson did what he did. And then Pulev went and fought Thompson, and not many people give Pulev the credit for beating Thompson in that fight. And then Thompson went on as well afterwards and scored a win against Orlando Solis as well. So Thompson's a good heavyweight. Let's not forget that. Klitschko's had it all his way for a long time, and there are still question marks about Vladimir Klitschko in terms of heart, in terms of chin, in terms of, do you really want to be involved in a dogfight? These are questions that 10 years on, as heavyweight champion now, we still don't know. We know that if he gets hit, he can go down. We know that he's lost fights beforehand. So people, when they talk about Klitschko, because some people maybe have done the research, but they talk a lot about Klitschko in the past, what he did in the past. This man is getting older now. We've got to bear this in mind as well. I don't expect Klitschko to do anything better than he's done. Against David Haye, it was probably his best performance, but he was forced to do that because he knew of the punch power of David Haye. Now, David Haye, again, is limited because he was only going to throw one right hand. He wasn't prepared to come in and take punches, whereas Pulev will be prepared to take punches. Pulev has the ability to move in and get into range and get out range against big guys. And he can stand and have a fight if he needs to. David Haye can't do that. So that will be the difference in this fight. And for me, heart, desire, and will. These are things you can't teach. And I will back Kubrat Pulev over Klitschko every day of the week when we go into that department. Can he get inside? I believe he can get inside. Can he rough Klitschko up? Well, if he can rough up Ustinov, he can rough up Vladimir Klitschko. What do people expect to see from this fight? They expect to see Vladimir Klitschko on the jab, doubling up the jab or tripling up the jab, and then throwing that big right hand and somewhere around rounds 8 to 10, Kubrat Pulev getting tired and getting stopped. That's the sort of scenario people are saying. Okay, Kubrat Pulev is a fairly young heavyweight. He's in his late 30s, well, mid 30s, mid 30s actually, and he has gone the distance a few times. A lot of people say, well, he's not a big puncher. He's not got a big punch to knock out Klitschko. Okay, he didn't have a big enough punch, but he stopped Ustinov. He didn't have a big enough punch, but he dropped Thompson. He didn't have a big enough punch, but he stopped Dimitrenko. These are three big, big heavyweights. So he might not have one punch knockout power, but he's got enough power to hurt you. And I sense with Pulev, from what I've seen of him, if he thinks you're scared of him, if he smells fear in you, he'll go for you. He'll go for the jugular, and he has that. He has a killer instinct about him. That's what I like about Pulev. What does Klitschko bring to the table? Experience, been there, seen it, done it, against a lot of guys who shouldn't have been in the ring with him. This guy is a deserving challenger, and was touted as one of the best heavyweights in the world and one of the most dangerous heavyweights in the world. Tonight we're gonna find out whether Pulev is the truth, or Klitschko is a lot better than I ever gave him credit for. That's what we'll find out. The other drama that's going on with Klitschko. Now, Pulev made some statements about Klitschko and the drug allegations. It seems with Vladimir Klitschko that seems to be far removed from any possibility of him potentially being involved in any PEDs or any drugs. You know, he's a good guy. He's a real good guy, and people seem to be under some sort of illusion that Klitschko's a really good guy. But there's some things about Klitschko that I've heard firsthand and are not too clever. I mean, even when Derek Chisora was in the dressing room when he was about to fight Vitaly Klitschko, I've heard stories firsthand of what Vladimir was up to. Now, he pulled out of a fight two fights against Derek Chisora. And one of the pullouts were because he had injury. And then a few days later, he was caught playing golf. This is somebody who a lot of people seem to think he's a law unto his own self. Now, if someone like Mayweather said that he was going to not take any drug tests, if Vader said, I'm not taking any drug tests, this would be all over the news. A lot of people would be talking about it. But for some reason, Vladimir Klitschko says that he's not going to take a drug test. It's fine. Vlad says it, it's fine. Mayweather says it, it's a problem. And I say this because when I looked at the weigh-in of Vladimir Klitschko, the fight was cancelled when Pulev first made this statement about Vladimir Klitschko, and Vladimir said he got an injury. Okay, when he says he got an injury, to be honest, I don't pay it much attention based on what I saw his injury against Chisora was. Now, this fight's come up now, this rescheduled fight, and I've looked at Vladimir Klitschko's body structure, and he looks less muscular. His body definition looks very different as to what it normally is. He's very bulky, very big, very strong. He doesn't look as bulky, and leads a question mark there in that. Maybe it's just me, but from what I see there, he didn't look the same physical, intimidating specimen, which he does look like in fights previous. So whether Vlad I'm not saying he's involved with drugs, but if he is, then there would be a reason as to why he wouldn't want to take the doping test. And Pulev mentioned this the first time round. The fight gets cancelled. Klitschko injury. Klitschko comes back and trains now for this next fight, or reschedule fight. You go on the scales, you see this guy, his muscle definition looks different. So I don't know if it's me and I'm fabricating something, or it's something else. I'm not saying Klitschko's on drugs, so don't quote me on that. But I think that every fighter, regardless of whether you're heavyweight champion of the world or Southern Area champion, at the end of the day, we should all be doing drug testing, and then we can see. If it's drug testing, then everyone's on a clear playing field. Do you know what I mean? either we do drug testing and everyone gets drug tested, or you know what, nobody does drug testing and you can take whatever substance you want and fight. It's one or the other, but we can't have rules for one guy and different rules for other guys. And then there's this thing about the custom-made Klitschko gloves. I mean, all this being said and done, at the end of the day, it comes down to a fight, and I'm backing Kubrat Pulev. I'm backing Kubrat Pulev because I think he's got what it takes. He's young, he's fresh, he's ambitious, he's not intimidated by Klitschko, and there are little things I like in terms of his footwork. He's able to get in and out of range, and he has the overhand right. He's not scared of throwing the overhand right. And if Klitschko does overreach for the left jab, Pulev's able to step back and throw the right hand over the top. He has that ability. So he can move Klitschko around the ring as well. So there's bad blood between these guys as well. They don't particularly like one another. And for all the messing around that Kubrat Pulev's had, and they'll be messing around tonight, but I think that his management team, unlike other Klitschko opponents, Sauerland Promotions are a different kettle of fish, I believe. And I think that they will have seen what Klitschko's done beforehand and will have heard of what Klitschko's done beforehand. I think it's going to help Pulev. I think Pulev's an incredibly mentally strong man, and I like him. And you know, when you're doing boxing predictions, there are going to be guys you're going to sway towards, and some guys you're not so sure about. But I like Kubrat Pulev and make it quite clear. I'm backing Kubrat Pulev, and I'm backing Kubrat Pulev for the knockout. I think it'll go to. I think it'll be a knockout. I really do. And the referee's going to be key in this fight. The referee's got to be key. He's got to prevent Klitschko from doing the holding. If he's a Klitschko referee, then that may be a problem itself. But with all that holding, Kubrat Pulev would have seen that. Kubrat Pulev, another thing I noticed, he's a chess player. And chess players are very calculated in what they do. And I think he would have studied Klitschko long and hard and know what it takes. Klitschko is not going to get any better. Whereas Kubrat Pulev has done just enough to win his fights, which means, and he's won his fight quite comfortably, which means there's a lot more to come from Kubrat Pulev. And I believe tonight, we're going to see a new heavyweight champion of the world. I'm putting my balls out there. I'm saying it as I see it. I'm not saying it to please people. I'm not saying it to I'm saying it because I personally believe, in my knowledge and my gut feeling tonight, Kubrat Pulev can be the heavyweight champion of the world. Do I hate Vladimir Klitschko? No, I don't hate Vladimir Klitschko because Vladimir Klitschko himself has done nothing to me. But his style, if you're talking about hit and not get hit, he's a master at the style of hit and not get hit. Master. If you talk about entertainment, if you talk about being the heavyweight champion of the world and being a representative and bringing more people to the fight game, then no, I don't find him entertaining. And I've said it before, I don't feel he puts himself out there as heavyweight champion of the world. And he is the direct reason why the heavyweight championship of the world is being shown on Eurosport and not on Sky or Box Office. He is the direct reason for it. Nobody else but him. And I'm sorry, I don't blame Vitali. I love Vitali. I think he's a great fighter, but I don't have a lot of time for Vladimir. I'm sorry. And I understand also that Pulev will be fighting for the IBF Championship of the world. Although Vladimir's got all the titles, this fight is only for the IBF title. So we will have an even more complicated heavyweight division if Pulev beats Vladimir Klitschko. Now, on a side note, and an interesting side note to that, Shannon Briggs, who's been running around, and a lot of people call it staged, running around attending all these press conferences and shouting and screaming and making all this noise, don't be surprised that next year, March, you see Briggs versus Klitschko for the heavyweight championship world. Don't be surprised. Do not be surprised. I think this fight is already in the making. That's all I'm saying. If Klitschko beats Pulev, get prepared for Klitschko versus Briggs. I'm saying it now. So you can take it however you want to take it. But I just hope that Pulev can pull it out tonight. I really do. I believe he's got heart and he's got skills, underrated skills. And tonight the world's going to see that. Let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of you are going to say Klitschko by knockout. That's the easy thing to say. But I think a jab looks great, and a person can have a great jab on a stationary target. When a person starts moving their feet and is able to move in and out from side to side, and is able to throw a right hand over the top and hit you and hurt you early, you become tentative. And the first thing Vladimir will do as soon as he gets hit and hurt, he's going to grab like an octopus. So, those are my thoughts. It's going to be an interesting fight. But I'm backing Kubrat Pulev. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave your comments. I'm out.